This is the longest-running, loudest fight in modern history. A reckoning that outlived revolutions, toppled empires, and split the world in half. For over a century, capitalism and socialism weren't just economic theories, they were battle lines. Behind every patriotic speech, worker uprising, and proxy war, this debate shaped our world. But no ideological influencer admits this. No system worked as promised, not once. Under pressure, war, famine, collapse, the truth emerged with brutal clarity. Welcome to your characteristic historian, where money, power, and history collide. Nothing is as simple as it looks. Before anyone uttered capitalism or socialism, the economy was merely a struggle for survival. Kings claimed divine rights, landowners owned everything, and peasants produced just enough to not starve. Progress moved slower than glaciers. For millennia, human life was a zero-sum game. If someone won, someone else lost. Wealth came from land, sweat, and war. Productivity was non-existent. The idea that an ordinary person could get rich through trade or invention was total madness. Then the Industrial Revolution shifted the world's axis. Late 1700s, Britain was a pressure cooker of coal, iron, and ambition. Machines replaced muscle, factories swallowed workshops, and private capital was born. For the first time, ordinary individuals could invest and own property on a scale once reserved for kings. Productivity exploded. Wages rose for some, but misery deepened for others. Inequality grew at an unprecedented pace. Smoke choked cities, children worked 12-hour shifts, and slums radiated disease. Yet one fact was undeniable. Capitalism produced goods, wealth, and speed faster than the world had ever seen. Socialism was born then, not as a utopian dream, but as a desperate cry against industrial capitalism's brutality. By the mid-1800s, thinkers like Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels looked at the smoking chimneys and sweat-stained factory floors, declaring the system itself a crime. They saw capitalist wealth as stolen labor disguised as opportunity. If factories were commonly owned, profit shared fairly, and production served human needs rather than private gain, society could be just. There would be no exploitation or crises, only rational planning and equality. It sounded moral, and to millions crushed under early capitalism, it felt like justice. But reality differed. The first serious national attempt at socialism happened in the ashes of an empire. After the 1917 Russian Revolution, Lenin inherited a vast, hungry, and stagnant country. The Tsar was gone, and this massive geography needed a new operating system. The Soviets built one: state ownership of land, factories, and resources. Bureaucrats set prices, production targets replaced profit motives, and private enterprise was erased. In theory, perfect equality. In practice, massive chaos. Without market prices, planners didn't know what people wanted. Without competition, factories didn't innovate. Without personal gain, workers didn't exert effort. Scarcity became ordinary. Queues became a culture. Agriculture collapsed into famine, eventually forcing Lenin to allow limited private trade to save the country from starvation. Yet socialism remained attractive because capitalism didn't look much better. In the early 20th century, capitalism delivered massive growth alongside wild instability. Speculation spiraled and monopolies dominated. While the rich lived like royals, millions barely scraped by. The system was as terrible at distributing wealth as it was successful at producing it. This imbalance exploded in 1929 when the U.S. stock market crashed. The Great Depression was a global economic heart attack. Banks collapsed, Unemployment hit 25% and financial systems were wiped out. For millions, capitalism looked like a fatal disease. By the 1930s, a disturbing reality emerged. Neither system functioned as advertised. Socialism brought scarcity. Capitalism brought collapse. Then came World War II, testing every major economy at the extreme. The Soviet Union mobilized its population with terrifying speed and discipline, directing all resources toward survival. Meanwhile, capitalist countries like the US transformed into giant industrial machines, proving how powerful private enterprise could be when backed by national coordination. After the war, the scoreboard changed to GDP, infrastructure, and living standards. From 1945 to 1991, the world became a laboratory. On one side, the Soviet bloc used central planning and suppressed markets. On the other, America and its allies used state-regulated capitalism, featuring social safety nets born from the Great Depression. The results were dramatic. Initially, the USSR saw rapid industrialization and soaring military power. But beneath the surface, the system cracked. Without price signals, the economy drifted into absurd inefficiency. Factories produced unusable goods to meet quotas, and innovation stagnated. By the 1970s, the USSR was decades behind in consumer tech. Capitalism, meanwhile, adapted. Governments introduced regulations, antitrust laws, and public health care. It wasn't perfectly fair, but it became survivable. This adaptability became its ultimate weapon. By the 1980s, Western living standards surged, while the Soviet economy stalled. The Cold War was won by performance. When the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, the USSR was defeated by empty shelves and broken incentives. The system designed to eliminate inequality had produced a new elite. Western economies simply proved more productive and flexible. Capitalism's victory lap didn't last long. In the 1990s and 2000s, it evolved into something 19th century theorists couldn't imagine. Finance exploded, global supply chains spanned continents, and credit flowed like water. Inequality reached dimensions reminiscent of the Gilded Age. Corporations became transnational powers, and economies grew dependent on debt and speculation. The 2008 financial crisis hit like déjà vu. Capitalism's instability hadn't disappeared. It just wore new clothes. Meanwhile, socialism reemerged in a softer, nostalgic form. Demands for wealth taxes, free education, and stronger unions returned. Younger generations, crushed by housing costs and stagnant wages, questioned if capitalism still worked for anyone but the wealthy. But interestingly, almost nobody wanted pure capitalism or pure socialism anymore. History had painfully shown the trade-offs of both. Look at modern Scandinavia, often mislabeled socialist. They have free markets, private enterprise, and global corporations alongside high taxes, strong social protections, and powerful unions. It's capitalism with guardrails. Look at the US, massive innovation and financial depth, but also staggering wealth gaps, decaying infrastructure, and a shrinking middle class. Look at China, the world's largest authoritarian capitalist economy. Beijing calls it socialism with Chinese characteristics, but it resembles state-directed capitalism. Private firms drive growth while the state controls strategic sectors, yet China faces identical contradictions: debt-driven growth and housing bubbles. Stepping back, the truth is embarrassingly simple. Today, every major economy is a hybrid. Markets and state power blend. Incentives and protections sit side by side. Reality forced compromise. When systems encountered real human behaviors, ambition, greed, fear, laziness, creativity, neither theory held up cleanly. People shape economic systems just as much as systems shape people. Human nature doesn't disappear, it just expresses itself differently. Under pure capitalism, greed becomes innovation until it becomes exploitation. Under pure socialism, equality becomes unity until it becomes repression. Power concentrates through wealth in markets and through politics in planned economies. The real question isn't which system is better, but which has the best mechanisms to restrain power, correct mistakes, and reward useful behavior. History's answer is clear. The system that adapts wins. Capitalism survived because it could reinvent itself, from laissez-faire to the New Deal to tech capitalism. Socialism collapsed where it refused to evolve, but thrived where it merged with markets. Scandinavia, post-1978 China, and parts of Western Europe. Capitalism prioritizes incentives, unleashing creativity and productivity through personal reward. The downside is inequality and instability. Socialism prioritizes equality, reducing poverty and ensuring basic dignity. But without incentives, productivity stagnates, and without open institutions, corruption festers. Both systems have deep failures and historical scars. The mixed economies we live in today prove that neither system could survive alone. Now, the debate is shifting again. The challenges of the 21st century, AI disruption, demographic collapse, climate risk, global debt, don't care about ideology. They expose weaknesses in both systems. Market capitalism struggles with long-term planning and social cohesion. Socialist planning struggles with flexibility and innovation. The countries that thrive next will combine the two most effectively, the creativity of markets, with the resilience of public investment. If the last century taught us anything, it's this: no system works without guardrails, no economy survives without incentives, and no society thrives when wealth or power becomes too concentrated, whether in billionaires or bureaucrats. History chose whatever prevented collapse. Every generation has to renegotiate that balance because the debate was never really about capitalism versus socialism. It was about who controls the levers inside each system: capital, the state, banks, unions, or regulators. The real fight is always over power. And power doesn't disappear, it just changes hands. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. The answers are in history. I'll show you where to look.